Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a ruffled ring, and these are using Miyuki seed beads from my stash. I'll have links in the description box below to where you can find all of these materials used in today's tutorial. If you click more below this video, you'll get all the details, including a link to my website. Also, check my website for periodic sales throughout the year. You'll find some great deals. All right, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is review the materials with you. For tools, you're just going to need a pair of flat nose pliers and a pair of scissors to cut your fireline. I'm using a size 12 beading needle today and 6-pound fireline, and this is in crystal because I've got some crystal beads here, so I don't want my thread to show through. So we're using the clear fireline. You're going to need about, I'm going to say 5 feet of fireline. Then for seed beads, these are all Miyukis. I've got 11-Os in both galvanized silver and opaque black. And then I have 2 different 15-O colors. This is a dyed silverline dark purple. And then this is just the galvanized silver. Both of these are 15-Os. And then I have an 8mm glass pearl. And then I have some 1x2mm rondelles, super teeny weeny. So that's what we're going to be using today to make this ring. So let me clear my area and we'll get started. First of all, I'm going to thread my needle. And what I'm going to do is take my flat nose pliers and just squeeze the tip of my fireline. And what this does is this makes it a lot easier to thread your needle. So now we're going to take that, pinch that through our fingers to where you can barely see the thread, and then you're just going to place that through your needle like that. We're going to pull that, and I'm going to pull enough thread down so that I don't have a super long thread. You can adjust this by pulling this when you need more thread so that you don't have an unruly amount of thread. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do modified right angle weave. So I'm going to start by picking up one of my 15-Os in the dark purple and 3 of my 11-Os in the opaque black. So let me bring my camera down a little bit closer here. So I have a 15-O in purple and 3 blacks. I'm going to bring that down, and I want to leave about, I'm going to say 6 to 8 inch tail so that we can weave that thread in. So from here I'm going to bring my needle back through the first bead that I put on, which is the 15-O in purple. So I'm going towards the working thread. We're going to pull that, and you're going to have a little square like this with your 15-O at the bottom. So from here I'm going to pick up 2 more 15-Os in purple and 2 11-Os in the black. So now I'm exiting this 15-O here. I'm going to come down through the 11-O in black on the right hand side and pull that down. So that's what you're going to have so far. So from here I'm going to skip this first 15-O that we added, and I'm going to go through the next 15-O. Right there. And pull. And if that gets away from you, just pull it back. Sometimes your thread will get caught up. I've got to untangle this already. So we're just going to pull that through. There we go. It's usually not this difficult on the first step. Okay, so here's what you should have, and you've got 2 little units like that. We're going to be making 11 of these units. So let me get my beads laid out and we'll continue on to the next step. All right, so we have 2 units and we're going to be making 11 of these, so I'll make a couple more with you. I'm coming out of this 15-0 right here at the bottom. It's kind of hard to see because the purple is so close to the black. We're going to pick up 2 more 15-0s in purple and then 2 11-0s in black, like that. I'm exiting the 15-0 here. I'm going to come down through the 11-0 in black on the right hand side, coming down like this. Pull. And just pinch your work between your fingers. That will keep your thread from getting tangled up. Now we're going to skip this 15-0. First 15-0, we're going to go in through the second one. So what I'm going to do is cross my thread over that bead like that and bring my needle up through this next 15-0 like that. Pinch and pull. So there's my third unit. It's kind of hard to tell, but you're going to count the units based on the number of beads at the tip. So I've got 3 so far. I'm counting 1, 2, 3. So we're going to repeat this step, picking up 2 15-0s in the dark purple, 2 11-0s in the black. I'm going to come down through the 11-0 on the right hand side, pull my thread. I'm going to skip the first 15-0 that we put on by bringing my thread and crossing over that bead. And now I'm going to bring my needle through this next 15-0 in line, like that. Pinch and pull. So we have 4 units. I'm going to put on another one. 2 15-0s in purple, 2 11-0s in black. I'm going to come down through the 11-0 in black on the right hand side, like that. Pinch and pull your work. Pull that so it's nice and snug. So that's what you have. Now we're going to bring this thread, cross over that first 15-0 to skip it, and bring your needle through the next 15-0 in purple. Pinch and pull. So I have a total of 5 units. So I'm going to continue adding the modified right angle weave until I have 11 units, and then we'll go on to the next step. For my next step, I'm going to join this end with my beginning end. So the way I'm going to do that, first of all, is I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s in purple, and I'm going to go through the 11-0 that's sticking out on the end of my work like this. So I'm going to pull that together. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 in black, and I'm going to come down through the 11-0 where I started, which is at the beginning of where I did my last unit. So I'm coming down through that 11-0 like that, and I'm going to pull. And that's going to join these two units together, like that. So from here, I'm going to go down through. It's going to be a little loose, but we'll tighten this up. I'm going to come down through these two 15-0s where I added, like that, and pull. Try not to get my thread tangled. And if it's still loose, you might want to pull on your tail thread a little bit. So we're going to tighten this up. So I'm just going to kind of fold it so that it doesn't have a gap in it. So here's my tail thread. Here's my working thread. So I'm going to pull that tail thread down. I'm going to go ahead and go through two more of my 15-0s following my thread path so that we can close this up. So just pull so that's nice and snug. So I'm going to set this needle down, and I'm now going to take my tail thread and I'm going to put a needle on that. So let me go ahead and get that done, and then we'll be right back because we're going to weave the tail thread in and get it out of the way. So let's get that, and I'll be right back. So my tail thread is coming out of one of these 15-0s. I'm just going to advance through 3 15-0s, pull my thread, pull that together, and I'm going to go all the way around, reinforcing, going through the next 3 or 4 15-0s. You want to make sure you don't skip any beads. So I'm just advancing through 3 or 4 at a time, pulling my needle through until I get almost to the point where my working thread is coming out of. So I'm just going to keep going. So we want that circle to be nice and complete. Just take your time. I'm going to advance through a few more beads, and because this is such a small bead, I don't want to tie any knots, so weaving around most of this should be good enough. So I'm going to clip my tail thread off right here. Let's get this out of the way. This is where I'm going to cut my tail thread off, right here. And now we're going to continue with our working thread for the next step. For our next step, our working thread is coming out of this 15-0 in the very base of the circle. What we're going to do is we're going to advance our thread so that we're coming out of one of these outside 11-0 beads that's sticking out. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through this 11-0 that's right next to my 15-0 bead. And I'm going to pull my thread. Now I'm going to bring my needle down through this 11-0 right next to it. So now I'm going to pick up my pearl, string that on, and I want to bring my pearl so that it's nestled in the circle here, like that. So what I want to do is I want to go in the 11-0 that's directly across from where I added my pearl. So the best way to know where it's centered, you're going to count from where your thread is coming out 5 beads that's sticking out. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this next bead is the one that's directly across, because we should have 5 beads on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's my thread. So I'm coming into the 6th bead after where I added my pearl, like that. So from here, I'm going to go back through my pearl, like that. Pull that nice and snug. Now I want to come back through the black bead where I started on the opposite side of where I initially came through, like that, and pull. So pull that nice and snug, and that's what you should have so far. For our next step, we're going to be doing a peyote stitch. I'm coming out of this 11-0 in black, and what we're going to do is we're going to peyote stitch a black bead in between each of the black beads that's sticking up. So I'm going to pick up my next 11-0, exiting this bead here, coming into the one that's sticking out right next to it. Pull that nice and snug, pick up another 11-0 in black, exiting this 11-0, going into the next 11-0 that's sticking out. Pick up another 11-0, exiting this 11-0, going in through the next one that's sticking out. And you're going to continue doing that same step all the way around. All right, I'm coming down to my last space here, picking up my last 11-0 in black, exiting here. I'm going to go through this next 11-0, and then I'm going to step up to where I started by going in the diagonal. And that completes my peyote stitch for this step, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, for our next step, we're exiting our 11-0 in black. We're going to start adding some 15-0s in the galvanized silver. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0 in silver, and we're going to peyote stitch. Exiting this black bead, we're going to skip this one that's slightly below and go into the next one, like that. And you want that 15-0 to be in between your beads, so just kind of pull that. Pick up another 15-0 in silver, exiting this black bead, going into not this one but the next one in line, like that. Pull that. Try to get your bead to come to the center, so you may need to pull in a little bit. Pick up another 15-0 in silver, exiting this black bead. We're skipping that one and going into the next one. And if it gets twisted, just get your needle in there and lift up the thread, and that should straighten it out. Just try to get those 15-0s to sit on the inside like that. So continue adding your 15-0s in silver, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, I'm coming down to my last 15-0 in silver. I'm exiting this black bead, skipping this one, going into the last one. There we go. Let's pull that through. So now we're going to, instead of stepping up, we're going to step down so that we're exiting this black bead right here, which was the start of our right angle weave. You want to be coming in out of one of the top beads of that initial right angle weave right there. So I'm going to pull that through. So that's where your thread should be coming out of, and then we'll be going on to the next step. For our next step, we're going to be adding a row of modified right angle weave, and right now we're coming out of the top top of this initial right angle weave bead, this black bead here. So we're going to pick up 3 11/0s in black, and we're going to go back through the bead where our thread is coming out of and pull. Once we have our first right angle weave here, we're going to go through our next 11/0 in our first row of peyote right here. Bring that through. Now we're going to pick up 2 11/0s in black. We're going to come down through the 11/0 on the right hand side of that first unit and pull. So that's going to give you a second unit. So now we're going to bring our needle, exiting this connector here, we're going to go through the next 11/0 in black right here and pull. So from here we're picking up 2 more 11/0s in black. We're going down through this right hand side of that unit. Then we're going through this next unit here, which is part of our peyote row. So bring that through, pull. That's going to give you another unit. We're going to pick up 2 more 11/0s in black. Now we're going to come down this unit on the side, also come down through the unit in the peyote row and pull. Pick up 2 more 11/0s in black. We're exiting here, and we're coming down this unit here on the right, and then down through the unit in the peyote row and pull. And we're going to continue adding until we have 23 units, because this is going to start to ruffle. So we're going to continue those steps. So I'll pick up a few more. 2 11/0s in black. Exiting here, I'm going to come down through the 11/0 on the side of the unit and the black 11/0 that's in the row. And you just want to go through that one bead like that. So we'll pick up another 2. Coming down through the right hand side of my square and then down through the next 11/0 in the peyote row. So I'm going to continue adding in this manner until I get all the way around. Then we'll go on to the next step. All right, here's what I have so far. I'm coming down to my 23rd pattern here. So I'm coming out of this seed bead here, and it's hard to see because it's starting to ruffle. So I'm coming down through the right side of that unit, then back through that 11/0 in the peyote stitch and pull. So I've got 1 more unit to add in between here. I want to come back through. I'm going to come through this 11/0 here in the row, in the base row where the peyote stitch was first done. Now, as you can see, there's a little gap here. What I want to do is come through the unit on the side of where I started, right here. So I'm going to bring my needle through that right angle weave piece, and I'm going to pick up 1 11/0 in black. Now I'm going to go down through the 11/0 sticking out where I left off to connect these units. So I'm going to come down, and that will close that gap like that. So now we have a bit of a ruffle of right angle weave here. So I'm going to come back down through one of these black beads in the peyote row to close that off. And that completes that step. All right, for our next step, we're kind of coming out near the bottom here. We want to advance our thread, so we're coming out of one of these outside 11/0s on the outer edge. So we're just going to travel through. I'm going to come through this silver bead here to kind of turn around. Doesn't matter which way or what path you take as long as you're coming out of one of these outer 11/0s on the edge. So now I'm going to advance my needle through. Let's see. I'm going to go through this black bead right next to the silver bead, right there. Now I'm going to come up through this 11/0 right here. Now I'm going to advance my needle through this 11/0 that's sticking out. It doesn't matter which way you go, just so long as you end up on the outer edge like this. So from here we're going to start picking up 11/0s in silver. And we're going to put these all along the outer edge in between each 11/0 that's sticking out. So you're going to see this start to ruffle. So just wherever your next black bead is, you're going to have a silver bead in between. So let's just start with this first one. Pick up your next 11/0 in silver. Go through the very next black bead like that. Pick up another 11/0 in silver. Exiting here, going in through this next black bead. So that's going to be your pattern. You're going to repeat this all the way around until we get to the very end, and then I'll go on to the next step. All right, I'm coming near the end here, and it's challenging as you're going around this because you want to make sure you don't miss any gaps, because as you can see it's starting to do a ruffle thing. So make sure you don't miss any spots where you have to add the 11/0 in silver. Coming out of this one, going into this next black bead, and you notice how close these last two are together. We want to make sure we don't miss that. So I'm going in through this next bead here. And I've got one more 11/0 in silver to add in between these two beads, and it's really tight, so just kind of get your needle in there. And then you're going to step up to the silver where we started, like that, and pull. So there's the start of your ruffle pattern. Isn't that cute? So we're going to go on to the next step. For our next step, with our working thread coming out of this 11/0 in silver, we're going to pick up another 11/0 in silver, two 15/0s in purple, one of our 1x2 crystal rondelles, two 15/0s in purple, and 11/0 in silver. So that's what you should have. So I'm exiting this 11/0. I want to come back through the opposite side of where my needle went in through. And pull. I'm going to flip this over. So that's what you should have. So once we have this unit done, where we've exited this 11/0 in silver here, we're going to advance our needle through this next two beads, the black and the silver. Like that. So we should be coming out of this next 11-0 in silver here. Fix that thread. All right, so we're going to pick up from here a 11-0 in silver, 2 15-0s in purple, our 1x2 rondelle in crystal, and then 2 15-0s in purple, like this. We're going to come down through the 11-0 of this last unit. Now we're also going to come through the 11-0 in silver, black, and silver. That'll set us up for the next unit, like that. So we're going to do that again. Pick up an 11-0 in silver, 2 15-0s in purple, one of our 1x2 crystal rondelles, 2 15-0s in purple. We're exiting this bead here. We're going to bring our needle down through the 11-0 in silver on that last unit. Now we're going to advance through the next silver, black, and silver right there. We're going to repeat that again, picking up an 11-0 in silver, 2 15-0s in purple, a 1x2 crystal rondelle, 2 15-0s in purple. Bring your needle down through the 15-0 of that last unit, like that. Now bring your needle through the 11-0 in silver, black, and silver to set you up for the next unit, like that. And we're going to do that all the way around. So I'll meet you when we get to the end here. So we have a few more units to go here, but as you can see, this is really starting to ruffle. So I'm going to keep going. As you can see, I have my 11-0 in silver, 2 15-0s in purple, my 1x2 crystal rondelle, and my 2 15-0s in purple. Exiting here, I'm going to come down through the side 11-0 in silver on this last unit, and to save time you can advance through this bead and also through these next 3 beads, silver, black, and silver. You can do that in one step. So I'm going to keep going until I get to the end here. All right, so here we are near the end, and to join this, I'm going to advance my thread. I'm coming out of this 15-0, or I'm sorry, this 11-0 here at the bottom. I'm going to advance my needle up through this 11-0 in silver on this very first unit where I started. Bring my needle through, so I want to connect these two. So I'm going to pick up, because I've already got the 11-0 here, and this side I'm just going to pick up my 2 units of 15-0 in purple, my rondelle crystal 1x2, and 2 of my 15-0s in purple, because we're sharing the 11-0 in silver on both sides of this. So from here I'm going to connect, bringing my needle down through the 11/0 in silver on that last unit I did, and pull. And that's going to close up that gap and complete your ruffle pattern. Now this is the back of the ring. This is the front of the ring. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to weave our thread through, and if you don't have enough thread, we're going to start a new thread to do the band. But I've got enough thread. I'm going to just weave my needle down through till I'm coming out of one of these 15/0s in silver on the back side. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to come down, and it doesn't matter what direction you go. We're just going to weave our thread down. Just come down through a few beads. There's no right or wrong way to do this. From here, I'm going to advance through this bead in black. And now I'm going to come through this silver bead right here, near the base. So that's going to set me up to work on my band. So then we'll go on to the next step. All right, now we're going to go on to our last step, which is to make the band. As I mentioned, this is going to be the back of my ring, and this is the front of my ring. So I've got my thread coming out of one of these 15/0s down here in silver. So I'm going to pick up two 11/0s in silver, like this, and I'm going to go through this next silver bead, like that. So that's going to place those two 11/0s on top. And I want to set up a base for doing a herringbone stitch. So I'm going to bring my needle back through, so I'm coming out of this 11/0 on this side. So I'm just going to travel through some beads, and it doesn't matter which way you go. I'm just going to advance underneath here through some of these black beads. Now I'm going to come back through this black bead here, come around the other side. It's really tight getting in here, so that's why a size 12 needle is recommended. Let's see if I can get through here. It's a bit of a challenge. All right, that's close enough. I'm going to go through these two right here. Pull my thread. And you're not going to see this, so the best way that you can get back on this side, because you want to advance your needle back through those two beads right there, like that. So we're going to start our herringbone stitch. So I'm going to pick up two more 11/0s in silver. I'm going to come down this first 11/0 where I started, and I want those to stack on top of each other, like that. Now I'm going to come back through the two 11/0s on the right, and it's going to be tight getting up here, but just kind of move your work around so that you can slide your needle through, like that. So now we're going to pick up two more 11/0s in silver. I'm coming out of this one on the right. I'm going to come down. I'm going to go down one bead on the left, pull, and I'm going to go up two on the right, like that. And if it gets caught, just use your needle to get that untangled and pull. So we're going to do that again. Pick up 2 11/0 in silver. Come down 1 on the left, like that. Pull. And then up 2 on the right, like that. Do that one more time, and then I'll send you on your way. Pick up 2 11/0 in silver. Come down 1 on the left, and up 2 on the right. So you want to continue doing that until you get the length or the size of ring that you want. And if you don't have one of these, this is one way that you can measure, or you can use a ring mandrel to measure. So I would measure from this end, because this is where it's going to connect, and see how long you need to make this. I'm going to try to make it like a 7 or 8 inch ring. So I'm going to do a herringbone stitch until I reach that mark there. Another way that you can do is also measure it on your mandrel. The longer this piece gets, then you can check or try it on your finger if you're making it for yourself. And you want to continue this herringbone stitch to get the length of the ring that you want. So go ahead and continue doing this stitch, and then I'll show you how to close that off. All right, we're coming near the end here, and here's what I have done so far for the herringbone stitch. And originally this design, I got this out of a book, and I'll give you the links to the book and the author and all this. The initial design called for doing peyote stitch type band, and I did a few rings that way, and I wasn't too wild about the fit, so I preferred a herringbone, so I did make that one modification in making my rings. It just seems to fit or be easier to get on and off your ring finger by using the herringbone stitch. At least that's what I felt like. This is a lot more comfortable. So here is the measurement of what I have so far. Now this end is going to connect right here, so I'm kind of just gauging this, and it looks pretty close to an 8. It might run a little smaller. So I'm also going to check it on my ring mandrel and see where about this falls, and it looks like it's going to be somewhere between a 7 and an 8, more or less. And these type of rings tend to run a little small, so you want to have enough room for, in summertime your fingers swell, so you want to make this big enough that it's going to fit you without the changes in the weather affecting the size. So we're going to go ahead and close this up. So I've got this end here. I'm going to connect it to directly opposite of where I am, because I want that to be centered. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0, and I'm going to go through this bead that's directly opposite. So here's my thread I'm coming out of. I'm going to go in through this bead right here, like that. And just kind of eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to try to get it as centered as you can. Okay, so I have that 11/0 anchored on that side. Now I need to travel around so that I can get my needle to come through this direction to make the connection on the other side. So I'm just going to travel around some beads. I'll go through. Let's see which way this is going. It's kind of hard to see because it's black. So I'm going to come up through this black bead right below and just kind of pull that together. Now I'm going to come over to this side like this, to the black bead on the left, and pull. Now I'm going to come up through this silver bead here like that, and I'm going to add an 11/0 on this side, and now I'm going to go up through about 3 or 4 beads right here on this side like this, and pull that together. Now I'm going to come across wherever this thread is crossing, and I'm going to come down these beads. I'm going to come down all of the beads on the right because I want to anchor this and give it some strength. So I'm going to come down all through the 11 O's and through that first bead where I started, so I might have to do that in 2 steps. So I'm going to pull this together, try to get this to anchor nicely. Now I'm going to come through that first bead where I started, pull that nice and tight, come back through the other side, through the black bead. Now I'm going to come back up through all of the beads on this side. So go through as many as you can get your needle through without missing any. So we're going to reinforce back and forth on each side and pull that nice and snug. And this will also give it some firm up your band a little bit. So I'm just going to keep going, reinforcing all the way through all these beads. I'm going to come back down on this side, coming down through all of my beads, including the silver bead, like that. And you're going to do that for as many times as you can, you have thread for, and as long as your needle's not too tight, just make it a comfortable reinforcement here. So you want to do this, come back through like we did, and go back the other direction, and then come back, and you don't have to do any knots here, so just weave your thread a few times, and then you're going to cut your working thread off, and then I'll meet you back. All right, so here we get to admire our finished work. Here is the beautiful ruffled ring. Isn't that pretty? Let's see what size I ended up with, because I was trying to gauge it for an 8, and these tend to run kind of small, so I've got between a 7 and an 8 here on my ring mandrel, so that came out pretty close to what I was aiming for. Very pretty. I'm going to show you another variation I did on this because I was experimenting with colors and I wasn't sure what I was going to like. I did this one yesterday, same color palette except I reversed. Instead of having the purple around it, I had silver around the bead. So as you can see, it looks quite different. That really draws attention to the border. I wanted this to have more color, so I decided to put the purple around the pearl. And they both came out pretty nice. Everything else was the same. I just wanted to change the variation of the beads I used around my pearl to see what kind of contrast I was going to get. And I was pretty happy with the way this one turned out because I like purple. So this came out pretty nice. And my sizing came out pretty close as well. So this concludes today's tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or want to send me an email about any question on this particular tutorial, feel free to do that. I will have links in the description box below with all of the materials used in today's tutorial. I do have a website where I sell my own jewelry, so there will be a link to that, and also check it out because I do have periodic sales throughout the year. If you're not a subscriber, I hope that you do subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And feel free to leave a comment. I do really appreciate those of you who have subscribed and keep coming back to watch my videos. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.